Your tools and note-taking capabilities ready. Your event begins in less than 3 minutes.
Good morning, it's Stacy with Sew Steady, and we are here today with Deb Donovan, and she is going to be doing the cutest project for everyone today. She originally created the Stashbuster Tumbler baby quilt, and she quilted it with the Circle Embroidelee collection. And so today we're going to be taking you through showing you different options for embroidery quilting, those options, and then we're also going to be showing you some of the tools that she used in the Embroidelee line to create that. So I will go ahead and get started by sharing with you the Stashbuster Tumbler set that she used. And today she actually, in making a baby quilt, she used a fat quarter bundle, and she didn't even go through all of the fabric in that fat quarter bundle to create that baby quilt. So lots of additional fabric available using that. But this is the Stashbuster Tumbler template set. So this is a cutting template set that we have available in our Sew Steady line. And this one is made up of 2 different sizes. You can get it in a 5-inch size, or you can get it in a 2.5-inch size. I'm curious how many of you have used our Stashbuster sets that we have available in our lineup, because this is just one of those, I feel like this is one of those products, our patchwork side, that just hasn't got as much excitement. And I think it's because, of course, our Embroidelee quilting templates have been so exciting through the last 10 years that this is something that we're definitely excited to show more of. So the Stashbuster Tumbler, we actually have a whole series of Stashbusters that I would definitely encourage you to explore. But I'd be interested in knowing if anyone out there that's watching has used any of our Stashbusters, because like I said, there's just so many options that we have in the lineup. In addition to all of our Stashbuster options, you can kind of see the Stashbuster Tumbler that we were talking about earlier, but we also have a Puzzler Stashbuster. We have a half hexagon, which is really, really fun. We have a Lyra Stashbuster, which kind of creates a different series of designs. We have this house Stashbuster, which I really love. And then a half square triangle Stashbuster, and so on. All of these are available in multiple sizes. So like I said, I just encourage you to go out there and take a look at all of the Stashbusters. I know, Deb, you got excited about the Puzzler, just, you know, as you were kind of looking at different options, or the Tumbler, I should say. But I'd be curious if you have played with any of the other Stashbusters as well.
I am excited about the Puzzler one. I love a good angle, and I have Sterling, but I have not put it together yet. But based on everything that I've seen from looking at the pinwheel and the tumbler that I've already used, these are a really good thing. You can either use scraps of fabric or you can cut out of yardage with them. They work excellently either way. So it's a great place to bust up your scraps, like it says, or you can even cut yardage out of them easier and I think more quickly than with a traditional template.
I love that. So I was going to let everyone know we are going to honor our kind of our 20% off for just the next couple of days. If you have a chance to watch this and you want to take advantage of some of those tools, then we are going to go ahead and give you our deal day 20 for the Stashbuster tools and the Embroidelee collection we're going to be showing off today. So you can see that at the bottom of the screen here. But Deb, I'm going to let you take it away and show them this amazing project we've been talking about.
Okay, great. Well, Stacy, what this actually started with was the Circle Embroidelee collection. And I'm going to switch screens very quick to this one. So this is the first project that I did with the tumblers and the Circle Embroidelee. This is one of the little, I think it's meant to be a sashing piece, I think, but it fit perfectly inside my tumblers. So I decided to make tumbler lanterns out of it. And to make this one, covered up my box. So this one, because I was in a hurry, I used my AccuQuilt die for, and I realized that this is an old die, so it doesn't have, the markings aren't showing up on the camera. But AccuQuilt dies, as we all know, have got the steel rule dies on the inside there, and they've got all of the corners cut off. So it's very easy to go in there and create and cut pieces out of it. Now, the way this tumbler is shaped on here, you do have to put strips of fabric in. So let me just, yeah, that's going to show up. I have had an AccuQuilt die for a very long time, and I have always marked them with a Sharpie marker. So I guess that's my little tip for you right here is, in addition to letting you see the shape of the tumbler that I started with, it's also going to make it easier for me to cut the next time. So what I've actually done on this die was marked like this originally. It's just faded over time. So there's the shape of the tumbler as it is on the die. The tumblers are stacked top to bottom. They have seam allowance included in them, and you can see they've got the little corners cut off on there. So anything that's got the corners cut off is going to be easier for us to put back together because of this oddball angle that's on the side of the tumbler. So this is where I started because I needed something quick and easy to get done. before a show, and it cut out quick and easy. So I started there, and this went together. I quilted this all using the Embroidelee collection in my on my embroidery machine. But then I decided that there were a lot of other things that we could do with tumblers too. So I already had at home a couple of other tumblers in different shapes and sizes. And then Stacy was kind enough to hook me up with the Embroidelee tumbler templates, which are these clear ones right here that I'll be showing you a little bit better. So tumblers come in all shapes and sizes. A tumbler is can be any size because they nest together kind of up and down with each other. So all of these are tumblers, and all of these can be used with the Embroidelee Circles collection because the embroidelees can be resized on your embroidery machine. So I'm going to show you the tumbler first. So I've got the two templates right here. I have a full tumbler and I have a half tumbler. If you look at my original quilt, tumblers have jagged edges on them. So you need to find a way to straighten that edge up. Right here, I put a full tumbler on and then cut off the excess. But the tumbler templates that we've got from the Embroidelee Stashbuster collection actually give you that half tumbler, so you don't have to make it extra large and then trim it down to size. What the templates have on them is a lip right here. So here's the acrylic that I'm going to cut on. This black part that I'm holding on to is actually a lip right here. So the edge, I'm going to just use my little chalkboard here, but the edge of the tumbler template is going to ride right up against the edge of the fabric, so I don't have to position the bottom part of it. This tumbler from Embroidelee is pretty easy. It is a 5-inch wide strip of fabric. Some of the templates that Embroidelee has aren't quite so nice with their dimensions because all of the Embroidelee templates are cut to final dimensions. They are not cut to easy cutting dimensions. So instead of having to measure like a 3/16, excuse me, on one of the other templates, if you use the adjustable rulers from Embroidelee, then here, let me change it so that I can fix it. All you need to do is put the template with the lip against the edge of the ruler, loosen up these thumb screws on the bottom, push up this base till it touches the end of the template, and then tighten these thumb screws right here into place, and then come back and check it again. So now I have exactly the right width to make either one of these tumbler templates. And I've already pre-cut my fabric here. But to cut the strips that I need, all I would need to do is just slide this right up against a clean edge on the fabric. And there's my 5-inch line all the way down. You don't have to mark it. You don't have to continue to look at it. You don't have to line it back up again. This is the smaller one. It's the 7-inch one, which is easier to show on camera, but we've got them in a couple other sizes as well. But to save a little bit of time, I already pre-cut the strips this morning. So to use the tumbler templates, This is 4 layers of fabric. I'm just going to take the template right here and slide it up against this clean edge on the bottom of my fabric. Realize it's a clear template and you can't see it very well. I wonder if it show it better on this one. There, that's a little bit better. So you just line it up on the bottom edge of your fabric. Clip the corners that are on there. So there's my little corner getting clipped. Because it's the first one, I'm going to take it and turn it back upside down. Line up this edge right here. And then come back and clip that corner right there. And so here is my tumbler that I cut out. To do the next one, I put the tumbler upside down on that 5-inch wide strip of fabric. And then go ahead and cut it and trim the corners. So it's very easy to get those tumbler templates cut out because the edge of the template is sitting against the edge of your fabric. So you don't have to worry about lining up that bottom edge. It just lines itself up all on its own. The reason the corners are clipped is because, like I said, tumblers have oddball angles on them. So to sew them together, when we turn them right sides together, these, sorry, the clipped corners line up. So I know that, turn it this way. This way's better. So I'll know that exactly right here, I'll know that, for instance, right here, you can see that little clipped corner. That's where I'm going to start sewing. And that way I will have everything lined up right because the dog ears are already clipped off for me. This is the large tumbler. There's a small one as well. I think that one's half the size at about 2.5. So after you've cut them all out and put them all together, then this is kind of what that tumbler looks like when it's been assembled. This is the 5-inch tumbler, so it's kind of long and skinny, but I like that. I've already got this one pre-hooped to show you a little bit later. This was a 5 fat quarter pack that made this quilt that I think is 24 by 30. And I could have even made it larger, but I stopped right here because it was the size I needed to be able to show it on a demo. So you can get a pretty good size quilt out of a small amount of fabric with hardly any waste. And this quilt does have the half tumbler right here on its outside edges. You really realize you can't really see it that much, but this is the half tumbler. So the edge was already straight for me. I didn't need to come around and trim it back. And I showed Stacy right before we got on, but I had a little bit of midnight madness last night, as I like to call it. So this is actually the half tumbler too. I took some extra half tumblers that I had, and this is a straw placemat. You can find them anywhere. I get them at Target, and so there's my little bonus project out of my leftovers in my midnight madness last night. So now that I've showed you that, I'm actually going to show you how I do it. So what I have here is another template just because it's smaller and it's easier to show. I've got my batting and I've got my backing right here. So if I take just a minute here to clean up my pieces. And then I'm going to, I like to use double-sided water-soluble sticky tape. I've got my marking tool right here. There we go. My hoop is right here. And my crosshair square, I'm going to grab the big one, is right here. So first things first, this is a little tiny tumbler. It's a 2-inch tumbler. It was cut out of a jelly roll. So yeah, this finishes at 2 inches tall. So this is a 4-inch tall tumbler, which is exactly the size of the smallest embroidery circle that we have. We've got 4-inch designs, so that's going to fit in here absolutely perfectly. I have white thread on my machine, so I'm actually going to do this blue one right here to get started. If you don't have a machine that has all of the bells and whistles on it, then you can quilt with Embroidelee also. So the first thing I'm doing is marking the center of the block, the center of the tumbler, right here. So you can see my purple lines right here. And then I need to find the center of the tumbler. And it's easier using the crosshair square because I have these lines and angles that are marked on it to help me find the middle, since all my tumblers are different sizes today. So that's the middle there. So I'm going to mark that. And I'm going to mark that. So there's my marks. We'll see if I have to go and make those a little bit darker or not. When we put our quilt sandwich together, we of course are going to put the backing on the bottom. So, there we go. What are we caught on? There we go. I normally would iron this, but the truth is I'm going to pick these stitches out when I'm done. I am using a white thread so that hopefully you can see it on the camera, but it's not the color that I've picked to quilt this in for its final version. So there's that. And there's the tumbler. So here is the block that we're going to quilt first. Sandwiching, of course, is putting, or hooping, is putting your hoop inner on the bottom, your hoop outer on the bottom, your hoop inner on the top, and then getting everything lined up. If you have a machine that does have extra placement capabilities, then you go ahead and use those tools that are available to you. But not every machine has those. So I like to use my little trick here with the double-sided water-soluble sticky tape. And I put that on the back of my hoop. So right now, if I try and hoop this, my hoop inner is going to want to slide around a little bit. So even if I have it lined up perfectly with my lines, just like this, odds are that when I come in here and I try and hoop it, something's going to wiggle around on me. So the double-sided sticky tape, I put on the back of my hoop inner all the way around it. So a piece at the top, It's not going to last forever, but it lasts for for several hoopings. And when it stops sticking, then you just clean it off and apply more. So there's that. Here's the bottom piece. And let me just do the two sides. Depending on the hoop, you might have to do more or less in terms of adding the tape. But I'm always of the opinion that I don't want to have to do it twice, so I would rather do a little bit more up front. So here's my last piece going on right there. And you can see the back of my hoops a little bit junky from other uses of the tape, but that's going to easily clean up when I decide that it's time to clean that up. So now that I've got the back of my hoop marked, with the tape on it, I've marked my hoops. It's my hoop. I can do what I want to with it. So I've taken a Sharpie and highlighted the center markings on the hoop. I can see them pretty well here. That just makes it easier for you to see. And then every hoop inner has a top and a bottom. So I've marked my top with a couple of double lines so that I make sure I've got it the right way. If I line it up now, there we go. I'm on the seam line right here. I'm lined up down here, and I'm lined up with my mark up top, and just press it down in place. Now the whole sandwich is moving together. So that's fewer things that are shifting around, which makes it easier for me to hoop accurately. Because the top of the quilt sandwich is not trying to shift. There goes that angle. The top of the quilt sandwich is not trying to shift under. Hold on, I need to loosen that screw up. Should have checked that before we got here. Tighten that, and I'm lined up down here at the bottom with my line, and I'm lined up here at the top with my mark, and there's my center right there. So with this, I can go over to the embroidery machine. And switch cameras for you. Okay, here we are at the embroidery machine. Let's wake it up. It's been hanging out there for a little while. I have loaded the 4-inch version of the design. Here we go. And I just left it in the center of the hoop because I've already figured out that the 4-inch version is the right size. Because the design is 1 inch wide and 3.75 inches tall. I turned on my laser dot right there. So let's just go ahead and check where that's going to be. Here is the bottom. My foot was loose. Can't have that. Here's the side. You can see that's exactly lined up. Looks like I am off center a little bit. My embroidery machine does have a little tendency to be off center. It needs to go visit the spa. So what I'm going to do is go and put that back in the center. Turn that dot back on. and just a little bit of moving will get that in the middle for me. Let me just check my math real quick. More like check my eyeballs. And that's the center. So to quilt, foot down, hit the go button. And this is a quick 433 stitch, less than 1 minute stitch out. This particular design feels off center when you look at it in the hoop, but give it just a second and it will even itself out. Obviously, my machine is having a little bit of a day because it is a little bit low in there, but I am centered left to right, and I can tell that I'm low because this is the absolute center of the design is right here where that little crescent moon ends. So that was super easy to get done. We can do this one right here using the exact same process and work our way all the way through the rest of the quilt top. But we've got more than one kind of tumbler here today. So here is another tumbler quilt. This one is made from that larger tumbler that I showed you at the beginning. I've already hooped and marked it just to save a little bit of time. So here's my purple marks that I lined up against. Here's my seam allowance right here that ended up being the center of the block. I need a different design for this because this tumbler is not quite 10 inches tall. I think it's 9.5 inches tall. So the little 4-inch one is not going to size up appropriately. So right here on the machine, I am going to load up the 8-inch version of the design and rotate it 90 degrees to the right so that it's standing up and down in the same orientation as the tumbler. Without resizing, the bottom center of the design is going to be right there. The top center of the design is there. The right hand edge is there. And the left hand center edge is there, which is great. And everything looks like it'll fit. I do have a tumbler shape though, which means that it angles in. So if I check the corners, that is the lower outside corner of the design, and it is out of bounds. You can see that here's the edge. Here's the edge of the tumbler, and there is the mark that shows me where the width is. So I'm going to be quilting a little bit too wide for this tumbler. So we need to do just a little bit of gentle resizing. And so if I go in and resize it and make it, let's say, just under 2 inches, and check that bottom corner again, I'm still a little bit out of where I should be. And there's a way to measure this. I just chose not to do it today. I'll show you the way. I'll show you the way to do it right. So if you go to the bottom center of your design, then if I grab my ruler here and line up the center of the ruler on that line, the edge of the tumbler is 7/8 to the left and the right. So twice 7/8 is going to be 1 3/4. So I actually need my design to be 1 3/4 wide. So let me go back and resize it using math instead of, let's see, I'm going to go this way, and using math instead of just my gut. So there, now I've made it 1 3/4 wide. And now if I go check it again, top center, bottom center, middle right, middle left, and that all important corner is right there on the seam line. And that's going to be fine because the block itself has rounded corners on it. So I can, let's see, this one is another 1 minute stitch out. That's what I like about the Embroidelee designs. I can make them fit in the space that I have available. This one is going to end up looking a little bit elongated because I made it narrower, but I did not make it any taller. But that's it. They're all going to be the same, and probably nobody's ever going to notice that. I can make Embroidelee fit in the space that I have. If you need to resize it more than your machine is capable of, then you can always get a quick piece of software that allows you to do basic resizing. That was actually the first thing I purchased after I got an embroidery machine, because it just makes your embroidery machine be a whole lot more powerful for a couple $100. So right here, we're stitching that one out again. We're almost done because we're down to the last one. And there we go. So here's our second tumbler stitched out. Right there, you can see that I'm centered at the top. I am pretty centered here, and I'm centered at the bottom too, because I did make it narrower. It fits perfectly inside the tumbler. I probably could have made it a little bit taller, but that's not what I chose to do right now. So again, this same embroidery shape could go all over this quilt top and make and get it quilted very easily. All right, and we're going to have to switch cameras right here because I had an unhooping accident. So I had everything all hooped up and ready to go, and then put it down, and it came unhooped, as things are likely to do. So let's go and get this third tumbler squared away. As long as I have the opportunity, I'm going to show you the entire quilt, pretty much the entire quilt right here. It is 6 rows up and down, and I think 15, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15. 6 rows up and down, 15 tumblers wide, and it is a pretty good size for a small-ish baby quilt. Well, I guess it's a perfect size for a baby quilt, and it's even a good size for a toddler quilt. But like I said, I still have stacks of fabric left over. So I could have made this larger if I wanted to. This is such an efficient way to cut out your fabrics with the tumbler die. So now let me reassemble my quilt sandwich. And we'll start with the backing. I had this all done so beautifully yesterday. And then I dropped it on the floor. So, but we all have had something come out of the hoop. This one just happened to come out of the hoop before I started to stitch it instead of after. And I'm in a little bit of a small space, so we're going to be just a little bit awkward here. Okay, here comes the quilt top. I don't know if you noticed before, but my little blocks with the foxes in them are directional, as are the mushrooms, as are the stripes. So I did have to pay a little bit of attention to how I pre-cut my strips to make sure that my foxes were going up and down and not side to side. But once I looked at that, that was easily enough figured out. And there's the bottom. Okay. I'm just going to remark this one so that y'all can see it. We'll use this. Yeah, we'll use this one. Here's the seam right here. That's very easy to line up. I am marking it just to make it a little bit easier for everybody to see. Normally, I would not mark this because when I'm not trying to show it on camera, it's very easy to see on your own. And then I want to center the top and the bottom of the tumbler, and actually the middle too. I want that all centered. And that's centered right there. So let me mark the top. And let me mark the bottom. And there's my 4 marking lines. Here's the bottom. Here's the bottom. Here's the top. And here is my hoop, which needs a little bit more of the tape on it. But the tape is not in its bucket. So you can see I have tape at the top here, but when it fell, the tape came off the bottom. Hold on, let me grab an emergency spare piece of tape. This is one of those things that I always have multiples of hanging around because they tend to roll away on me. So here's my replacement piece of tape for the one that's stuck to the quilt. Just going to stick it down right there along the edge. Press it in place with my fingers. And peel back the release tape. That one should hold still. And let me just put a couple more pieces on here.
We just had a question come in. Someone said, how long does it take to finish the embroidery one tumbler at a time for a baby quilt?
All right, so this is a 1-minute stitch out per design. So it all depends on what size hoop you're using. and how many tumblers you can quilt at a time. I am showing you beginner basics right here, and that is 1 tumbler at a time. But if I, hold on, apparently I cannot take the backing off tape and talk at the same time. That was a fail. Okay, if I line it, this is a 7 by 11 hoop right here. If I take this one and line it up just like this, I can do 2 tumblers at a time in my 7 by 11 hoop. I would just position things. I'd put 2 embroidery designs on my screen of my embroidery machine at the same time, and then go ahead but I'd have to check the positioning on them, center between the 2 tumblers instead of centering just on the 1 tumbler, and then you could stitch out 2 at a time. So at a minute stitch out, honestly, I'd still have this done in an afternoon. This little guy right here that started the whole thing, I ended up being able to do 4 tumblers at a time in, I think, an 8 by 12 hoop. So it really just depends on the tumbler that you're using, the size of it, and how confident you are in your ability to put more than 1 tumbler in the hoop at a time. If you have a more sophisticated machine, then you will have an easier time doing multiples. But I did do that smaller one in just a couple of hours, which is probably as long as it would have taken me to do it with ruler work or anything else. Okay, so here's my outer. Now that we're taped into place, I can slide that under there. Get it where it needs to be. Let's see. Looks like I do not have the best tape job on this one. Also, I don't have enough space on my table. I have a little itty bitty table right here that is not meant for great big hoops, which is why I had this hooped ahead of time. And center, 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 center. And now pop all those into place. My back is good. You always have to check your back. Check and make sure nothing extra's in the hoop that wasn't supposed to be there. And now we'll switch back over to the machine. And put this one on. Didn't like that seam right there. This one finished all the way back there. Make sure everything is clear. Okay, so let's just look at the last design that we did. We resized it and we made it narrower but not taller. So this one will go I think it's within a ½ inch of the same length, but it is a skinnier tumbler. So you can see that even right here, it is off. And if it's not, you can tell that you're going to be what I call out of bounds down here at the bottom. And I'm sorry you can't see that better. I'm not sure why it's not showing up as well this time. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to delete the one that I modified and reload a fresh one. One of my biggest problems, one of the biggest things you have to watch out for is when you're doing embroidery is resizing your designs. If you resized it, then you need to save it. That way you have the resized version for tomorrow. And if you're switching from one quilt top to another quilt top, you need to close the design and reopen it again so that it is starting from the original size, and it's just easier to start from scratch than to undo something and then redo it. So let me take that design and why are you not? Let's see. Resize. There you are. So I know I need to make it narrower. And we'll do the math this time too. If I can find where I put my ruler down. Oh. So I did it before, and this is right here at the bottom port. This needs to be 1.5 wide. And that is beyond what my embroidery machine, what most embroidery machines can do. If I do that, then you can see that here's my bottom corner right here and right here. And then there's the top right there and right there. So let me do a little adjustment. Like I told you, my embroidery machine needs a trip to the spa. Oh, actually, I'm going to be out of town in 2 weeks. So that sounds like a perfect time to send it to the spa. There's that side there, you know. Now I can see that it's out a little bit more. I don't know where that glare is coming from, but I can tell you that it's a little bit out. So I'm going to go back and resize it down a little bit more, and let's see what that does. Oops, turn on my laser. All right, I am a little bit out, and like I said, I don't know where that glare is coming from, but I can see that it's a little bit out, but based on the fact that I've stitched this design out many times before, I'm confident that it will stay inside the tumbler, even though I haven't stitched out this particular tumbler before. Check and rethread upper thread. Don't we love it when these things happen? So you can quilt with lots of different kinds of thread on your embroidery machine. Today, most of the time, I use regular cotton thread because I like the look of a cotton thread on a quilt. I have used embroidery thread and thick thread and thin thread. So you pretty much can use whatever it is that you like. I didn't get any stitching at all. Let me check my foot. And go back over to embroidery. And let's try this again. There we go. Oops, I did just right there on the edge of the seam, but that's absolutely fine. No problem at all. And another quick minute. This one is 646 stitches to embroider it. Now, my machine, I think I've got it set up at 800 stitches right now, but it will go faster. So this will be less than a minute for it to finish. I love tumblers. I always have. I love anything with an angle, but I like even more to have a template to help me cut them out with, so that I don't have to try and figure out how to make a oddball angle, whatever this angle happens to be, on my regular rulers. So having tumbler templates it really makes it a lot easier for me to come and do some of those things that I really like to. So here's this one right here. Here's my top, nice and centered. You can see it kind of touched off to the edge right here, but that's the nature of the design because it also touches the edge right down here. So there we go. We've done, well, I've done 4 templates, 4 tumblers with the same design, resized in 4 different ways. And each of them has been able to be resized using Embroidelee. So that's one of the things that I think is really underappreciated about Embroidelee, is my ability to resize designs to make them fit whatever size tumbler I happen to have today. Because like I said, I have lots. That's not even all the tumblers that I own, but I thought it was a good variety to show you.
I love it.
Yeah, they come in all shapes and sizes, but templates are great. And the fact that I have the Stashbuster ones that have the lip on the end, it's like using, you know, when somebody's doing calligraphy, my sister used to do it. She's always got a T-square to help her keep her line straight. So that's kind of what this is doing. That edge is helping keep the tumbler straight on the edge of the fabric. And I see there's a question where somebody wanted to know if it was easier to use a magnetic hoop. Yes, if you have hooping capabilities, if you have positioning capabilities, or if you have the ability to center perfectly on your magnetic hoop, then absolutely go ahead and use magnetic hoops. I have mine here on the floor. I just didn't use them on the demo because I want to show everybody that you can do Embroidelee with whatever hoops came with your machine. But if you have a magnetic hoop, then you're going to go even faster.
We had one other question. Someone was asking, what is the best way to ensure no big knots are on the back? And are these designs set up to avoid that? Or do they need something to do something on their machine?
The designs are set up with tie-offs at the beginning and the end. So you will get the tails on the bottom with a knot. How big the knot is probably depends on your embroidery machine. So the one that I just did here, I have white thread on a blue backing. So I'm going to switch cameras again real quick. We are going to go over here. So at the bottom, I have just a little knot right here with a couple of tails that I can easily trim off. Actually, I'm going to switch to a camera where I can get you a closer view. So right here on the bottom, I have a little tie off with 2 little threads that I can trim and nobody will ever notice that it was there. On the top, I'm sure this is the big knot that you're talking about. And that is because the way my machine works is it pulls the top thread to the bottom. And as it's doing the tie off, the tails get tangled into the knot. So if you pull those threads up and hold on to them, like I would do when I was quilting with templates, then you'll get the knot, but you won't have a big knot. It'll look much more like this little knot down here at the bottom. And that's because of the tie-offs. Our embroidery machines do not give us the ability to take out those tie-offs. If you have software, then some software you can go in and edit by the stitch and you would be able to take out those tie-offs. Without tie-offs, though, remember you're going to have to bury your threads on your own. All right. Were there any other questions that I missed, Stacy?
Yeah, someone else was mentioning that they had always brought their bobbin thread up, which is one of the options you were just mentioning for.
Right, and we always teach everybody to do that when using the templates. It's how I was quilting even before I had the templates. Embroidery machines have not been used by quilters since their very beginning. So embroidery machines are set up for embroiderers, not for quilters. So we just have to make a little adjustment to have them do what we want them to do, so it looks as nice on the back as on the front.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, I did want to go ahead and post a link here today. This is just going to be a little embroidery guide, kind of 101, that you're welcome to download, that gives you some of those tips for quilting and the hoop, and some of the things that Deb shared today too. So this is what we're calling our Embroidery 101 guide. And so you will maybe get a little bit more out of that as well. But I've just posted that. Thank you so much, Deb, for sharing the amazing Stashbuster Tumbler series and some of the other solutions that you have for Stashbusters in your craft room there. And then, of course, showing off that new Circle Embroidelee collection that just came out this year, and we absolutely love it. I cannot tell you how much the embroidery designs in that collection are just speak to me. But we've got an amazing assortment of inspiration that you can check out if you go and just download the lookbook. You're going to see so many cool designs, whether it's stationary designs or you're going to have options for really fun edge-to-edge designs like you used today too, Deb. So absolutely. Well, thank you again. Is there anything else you want to share with everyone?
I'm just going to show you one other thing. This is the other circle quilt that I was working on. It's not bound yet, but it is right here. It needs a little bit of quilting on the outside edges, but there's your circle embroideries right there, just in the middle of 10-inch squares, and then some smaller ones right there in the centers. So just needs a little bit of ruler work on that little border to finish it off. But the circles have been so much fun to play with, but I've always loved mandalas and that kind of thing. So they've been speaking to me too.
Yeah. We had someone ask if the Circle Embroidelee collection is going to be in the next box. And I will tell you, definitely not. The Circle Embroidelee collection you can purchase separately, but the next box is going to have our Churn Dash Embroidelee collection. Every box is going to be really related to that block that we're promoting and highlighting. So it's a Churn Dash Embroidelee collection inspired by DM quilting that you'll be getting in that next box. So stay tuned for that. The Churn Dash block is going to be what we're highlighting coming this July. So even more fun to come.
Oh yeah, I think we're all going to have a lot of fun with that Churn Dash.
I do too.
So many different ways to do it.
Exactly. Well, again, thank you all so much for joining us, Deb. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for bringing your amazingness to all of the folks out today. And definitely come on, take advantage of that deal day 20 if you want to jump on some of those Stashbuster tumblers or the Circle Embroidelee collection at the 20% off. That's going to be a super deal. Also consider that we did throw in the opportunity for that 6x7 adjustable locking ruler that Deb showed off earlier today for being able to cut down your strips. So,
and those rulers, how many times have you needed to cut 4 3/4 and then accidentally cut 4 1/2 instead, or 3 1/2? So with that adjustable ruler, you've got your size locked in. It's right there. You just push the edge of the ruler up against the edge of your fabric. You don't have to make sure it's straight from top to the bottom. You don't have to remember your number. No pink tape, no arrows, no nothing. It's just the right size. Period.
It is easy. And then the other thing I love about it is with the tumblers, you actually just fit it to it and then lock it down. So you don't actually
that way, with the entire Stashbuster line. So my next project is with the Sterling, and that's got some more unusual angles in it. So I'm sure when I sit down and measure those blocks, it's going to want something by 7/8 and something else by 3/4. So I can just cut the strip once and not have to think about what size it is. I don't even have to measure it. All I need to do is flip the template upside down on the locking ruler, nest them together, and then set the
Yes.
ruler at the right width.
Yeah, so definitely check out the adjustable locking rulers because that is really, really helpful. One of the reasons that those became so popular by Westerly Design was because you had the opportunity of being able to really minimize fabric waste. And I think that that's what you're really talking about there too, Deb, is just being able to like cut once and not have to worry that you're, going to potentially not get enough fabric or or you're going to have a little too much.
I made a quilt once from a nationally known designer. I'm a decent quilter. I followed the instructions roughly, and I couldn't figure out why it was all off at the end. And that's because she had us cut everything big and then trim it down. So instead of cutting a square to 3 7/8 and making a half square triangle out of it, she had us cut to 4 inches and make half square triangles out of all of it. So that was just more steps to have to so we didn't have to remember to cut 3 7/8. So we got to cut 4 inches instead. That added a whole nother trimming step at the end. And I personally resent those steps because I'm just giving my block a haircut and I should be on to making doing the next part of my project by then.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that when you can just get it right the first time, you don't have to worry about all that extra stuff. So someone asked a good question. They said, do the long arm designs come with the purchase of the Embroidelee collection? And yes, the Circle Embroidelee collection, we actually did not include any triple stitch designs. We didn't include any fill designs. So that means that all of the files are on one USB. So you don't have to purchase a separate one for your long arm designs. So good question. But yeah, we're definitely excited for you to take advantage of those deals, and let us know if you have any other questions. Otherwise, we hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see y'all tomorrow. We're going to be having a special guest speaker. We just recently started working with a new designer by the name of Holly Ann Knight, and she runs a company called String and Story, and she does a really fun Rockstar Ruler Academy. And so we're going to be sharing what Holly Ann's up to and, what you can do to take advantage of some of her super deals. And then we're going to be having Mindy finishing up her Arrow block quilt this week as well. But stay tuned because we're also kicking off our Arrow Block Quilt Challenge this week. So give you some ideas on what you might want to create with your amazing tools that you got in your box recently and get inspired to get started on those projects. So again, thanks again, Deb. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye, everyone.